Hello and welcome to this week's Wild Spirits News. I'm Sibylle, and today's subject is, are we addicted to instant everything? I think technology has made our lives marvelously easier and it improved so many things. I'm old enough to remember that the first time I moved to a different country as a student, how I wrote letters back then. Actual letters, handwritten letters, which are a lovely thing. I'm not going to deny it. But when I sat there for an hour writing 10 pages to my best friend at home about some guy that I met at the party or something like that the other night, then I sent that letter and nothing happened because it took like 3 or 4 days to get there. Then she might not even find, or even if she instantly penned a reply, it was at least a week or a week and a half before I got the answer, usually more like 2 weeks. And then she'd comment on this event that I told her about. And by that time she'd commented about it. I sometimes received the letters. I remember receiving the answers thinking, what's she going on about? Because 10 other things had happened in the meantime, and I'd completely forgotten who I'd met there 2 weeks ago. It's so much nicer these days to be able to just write an email or even send a Facebook message and get a reply within hours and sometimes even within minutes, and just be able to talk to somebody real time, although they might be far away and I might actually be missing them. However, our lives have also there's also some new challenges that have come with the instant availability of almost everything. There's the whole subject of social media, things like Facebook, which are designed by psychologists. They actually use those psychological insights in order to make us addicted, to keep us scrolling. This instant news, you can click on this article and read it immediately, and then you see this status update, and everything is instant and everything is there, and it constantly refreshes. It never ends, and that makes us addicted to it, and obviously it often ends up in us wasting a lot of time, and it doesn't have a very positive effect on our psyche in general either. So your mission today is to find the correct balance for you between instant and long-term in your life. Task number 1 is called read your instantometer. All right, I just made this word up. I did. But what it means is you need to first gain clarity on how much instant has taken over in your life, and whether you're still in balance of the instant things that are actually fantastic and enriching for your life, and the things where it becomes a little unhealthy. So in order to do that, I'd challenge you to ask yourself a couple of questions. The first of these questions is, when was the last time that you did anything that took more than a couple of weeks or a couple of months to complete? When was the last time you started something like that? I mean, if you just had a child, that is the ultimate long time project, right? Bringing up a child, I'd say you're signed up for at least 20 years, and that's initially. It never actually ends. Ask anybody who had children. So that is one long-term project. Or learning anything, or anything, starting a university course, things like that. So think about it for a bit. You can pause the video if you have to, and find out when was the last time you started something that took or takes a substantial amount of time to complete. The second question I want you to ask yourself is, how much time on average do you spend per week in what Stephen Covey would call quadrant 2 activities? Quadrant 2 is the, I don't have to explain the whole matrix to you, but quadrant 2 is the category of things that are important but not urgent. Examples of this might be your health, or your finances, or your relationships. How much time per week do you spend on these? And that's your first task. Your second task is called make room for long term. Because no matter where the balance is, in our modern lives, it tends to be a little bit skewed towards the instant side. So we need to bring more of the long-term stuff in. Stephen Covey says that the quadrant 2 is the easiest to skip and the easiest to neglect. Because these things aren't urgent, we tend to push them to one side. Unfortunately, they have a tendency to because although they're not urgent, if they're neglected for long enough, they have a tendency to become very urgent and become very big problems. Example, again, your health. If you don't work out today or eat healthy today, you're probably not going to die tomorrow, but a couple of years down the line, you might develop health problems. If you neglect your relationships with your loved ones today, you might not be divorced by next week, but in the long run, it might lead to a lot of suffering for you, yourself, your partner, your children, whoever it is. I don't need to explain this. It's fairly obvious that this doesn't go well for a long time. And your finances, the same thing. If you're reckless and don't make a budget, you might still get along. You might skid through for a couple of years even, but at some point you will probably run into trouble. So here are your second task. I have 2 suggestions for your second task. And the first is to schedule in time every week for quadrant 2 activities, which are self-care, refill your own well, health, like I said, exercise and the like. Your relationships, the loved ones. Quadrant 2 are the things that really matter in life. But again, because they're not urgent, we tend to neglect them sometimes, especially if you're busy, which is why you need to schedule these things in and be really ruthless about them. The second part of task 2 is I challenge you to start something new that'll take you longer than some months to complete. Suggestions could be anything along a passion, actually. Passions are fantastic for this kind of thing because most of them take longer. For example, you could learn a new language, or you could learn an instrument, or start a sport until you get, it usually takes some time to get good in anything worthwhile. It takes some practice and it takes a longer commitment. So I challenge you to find something, maybe something you've always wanted to do and always said, once I have more time, I'll start this. Don't wait until you're ready. Do it now, because otherwise you'll still be wishing you did it in 5 years from now. So that is obviously a task that goes beyond this video. This is a little longer term, but I'd like you to decide what it is. And this brings me to task number 3, which is to let me know, what are you going to do? What is your instantometer in life, and have you made a decision to start something new, or how are you scheduling time for your quadrant 2 activities? Hit the reply button on the email where you got where I sent you the link to the video, and let me know what you are going to do. And if you didn't get an email with a link to the video, that means you're not part of the Wild Spirits community yet, and you should join us. Go to wildspiritscoaching.com and fill in the little form there. You can also do the free life audit on my website. When you fill in the form after the life audit, one of the things that this will do is also to subscribe you to the newsletter. The newsletter is 1 email per week, 100% spam free. You get additional information other than the link to the video, recommendations, additional articles. Sometimes there are exclusive offers that only my subscriber ever get to see, so it's really worth it. Go to wildspiritscoaching.com and sign up. You can also Google Wild Spirits Coaching, that'll get you to the website as well. Thank you for watching.